I shared my journey on pricing. Tell us a little bit, just, not the Hector sermon version of pricing story, but the 5 minute, 2 minute, 30-second story on your journey with pricing, and why you're so fascinated about it today, and it obviously relates to the topic tonight.
Wow, I'm an enormous amount of pressure to get this one right. Um, you know, Pricing was something I was a bit skeptical about 5 years ago when I first heard Ron Baker speak. He made it seem like that was sort of the solution to all the problems, and I was like, not really. We got other problems, right? We got people using QuickBooks Online 5 years ago. That was kind of a problem, right? Because it was such a horrendous experience 5 years ago. Now it's great. And we had people, using the software wrong, and we had people cheating on their taxes, and we had all sorts of things that go on in the accounting world, and it's like, yeah, really, pricing is how you solve everything. And little by little, as I started, reading more stuff, talking to some of the experts, talking through it, testing it. I think testing it is the most important thing, because you want to kind of throw it out there, see what happens with new customers, and talking about it. Because, like Michael thinks I'm an expert at it because I talk about it a lot. And that's kind of true and half untrue. So I feel very comfortable talking about it because I've been talking about it, but I don't think I'm an expert at it. I still think I get price wrong. But the one concept that really just changed the way I think is when it got in my head that every time the customer says yes to a price, whatever price it is, the big question is, would they have said yes to something a little bit bigger, right? And every time they say no to a price, that means that you took a position and they were not playing the same game you were, and they ousted themselves out. So we got those two things going on, right? When customers tell you yes, there's a possibility that they could have said yes to more. And it's fascinating to think, what is that threshold, right? And at what point, what price they would have said no to. So I will never know, none of us will never know, because every time somebody tells you no, that means maybe they would have said yes to $1 less, right? And every time somebody tells you yes, we don't know how far that would have gone until they would have said yes. So that's the value gap. That is the difference between your understanding of value and the customer's understanding of value. And that's all psychological. That's all personal. It's all subjective. It's all circumstantial. And there are situations, and this is very true, there are situations where you can price the exact same service in a different circumstance, and your customer could say yes, or they could say no, right? There could be so many individual personal things happening in that person's life that could have changed their decision at that moment. And there could have been one wrong word that you said during the conversation that could have turned the customer off, or you could have said one right word that made the customer very excited about working with you. So I've been fascinated with pricing ever since I kind of understood that concept. And I talk about it not because I think I'm an expert. I talk about it because I know that the more pushback people give me on it, the more opportunity I have to state my case. And the more times that I've maybe wrong in a position, people will intellectually tell me, Hector, I have a different opinion. And I hear it. And that's how I grow in this concept. But I think pricing fixes everything. I mean, it's amazing. Prices just fixes everything. I mean, I think we're going to go down the rabbit hole and discuss all the different examples. But the easiest way and most elegant way to get rid of a client is to raise a price to a level that they can't pay, but a level that you feel comfortable continuing to take on the pain if they say
Right.
yes to it. So that's such an interesting way of
the POA price, right? The POA price increase, right?
Yeah.
And, it's the, like you said, what are elegant ways in which we can use price to both keep a client, let go of a client, acquire a new client, refer a client. There's all different ways to look at it. One of the comments, Hector, that when you were talking, it made me think about was the gap the value gap in pricing, until that gap is fully closed, I don't believe the exchange is actually truly fair. Or maybe there's a better word is, until the value gap is closed between you and your customer on that price, you're actually not maximizing the amount of value you both could receive out of the deal. There's a concept in negotiation that's also true about this, where in negotiation, generally most parties approach a negotiation as, I want my side to win better than your side wins, or I want my side to win and your side to lose. So we think about when you go and sell something that you want to sell, or you want to go buy a car, you kind of are figuring out a way for the dealer to lose and you to win. That's the approach you generally take. But there's a concept of negotiation where, and the same thing goes with pricing, where you actually want both parties to win maximally. There is a scenario where you both actually win out on your value. And that's what you talked about, the value gap. If you can close the value gap and not compromise, not, oh, we're both going to compromise to a price we both are acceptable about. It's more, no, we're going to close the value gap so that we actually both fully win the most value on each side, then both sides win. And so that's, some of your comments kind of initially made me think about that.
If you walk into a Best Buy, right, and you want to buy a 60-inch screen, you know kind of what you want, you've done your research, it costs $900. You stand next to it, you're in love with your idea, and then next to it, there's the one that's $1,200. And you already made your decision. Yours is the best bang for the buck. But you're looking at the second one and you're imagining the possibilities, right? Like what? And before you move forward, you look at the TV and you go, if I go with this one, what else am I going to get, right? And you look at the little card of features and you're like, what are the extra features? And then you call a salesperson over and say, why is this one more expensive than that one? I used to work in Best Buy. I can tell you that question happens all the time. No one ever asks can you compare the features between the two? They always say, why is that one more expensive than this one? Because your brain automatically tells you that because it's more expensive, it's better. And there's something else that I'm getting if I pay more. But then what happens is the minute you start looking at that one for too long, then when you go back to yours, it's not that the more expensive one was giving you more. You start thinking, I'm getting less with this one. So the psychology of wanting to maximize the possibilities, it's something that's, I think, is true to every human being. I mean, we're efficient in nature, and some of us strive to be effective at the end to get the biggest bang for the buck. But we're efficient because we want to maximize every situation. So when you're drawing the analogy of looking at TV that's more expensive, it's a similar analogy of purchasing from a service professional that gives you two choices. He can say, most people buy the middle option, $100, I'll come clean your pool every week, right? But if you pay $200, we're going to give you the most premium service of your pool. And they don't say anything else. And you start filling in the gaps. What does that mean? What does that awesome pool service that costs double mean? And your imagination starts, going at 100 miles per hour. And that excites people. The possibilities always excite people. And when you use pricing to create that psychology, you actually drive the customer towards asking for more. And when they ask you for more and you're able to charge more, now you have a pressure because you want to make sure that whatever you said is going to come true. You want to make sure that if you set the expectation high, that you deliver high. So it elevates yourself as a professional when you offer something that's more expensive. And some customers are saying yes. And it starts happening. It's happened to me. So, I know that deep in our mind, we're accountants, we're frugal. We don't want our customers to spend more than they need. And we know that there's some things that they need and they can get away with it and they will be happy. But we also know that we can go the extra mile. And if the customer sees it, they're going to be super excited about it. And we're so shy from offering that most of the times because we also want to maximize the client's pocket, and not giving you the ability to offer that higher price, that higher option, that premium service, that better TV, that open to interpretation, open to imagination, higher option takes away from the possibilities, the possibility from the client's imagination perspective, and the possibilities from you as a provider from your perspective, because you will get really damn creative if you randomly price your service $800 more and the client said yes, because you want to make sure you deliver $800 more. So it leads to innovation. It leads to higher expectations. It leads to propping yourself up and raising yourself up in the quality level. And your customer will expect more, and they will check you on value all the time. So that's why I agree with Jacob that elevation of price elevates everything.
That's great. That's really great. What do you think makes accountants naturally fearful or scared to elevate their prices or to think differently about it? It seems like our industry is filled with hardworking, good hardworking people that are good at their craft, willing to do close to dirt cheap work, right? Like the pricing for the work. They're willing to give their value away for a pretty cheap price. And then there's those in the industry who seem to have gotten over that fear of and really looked at value at this value pricing, or looked at making sure they close the value gap, not as something bad, but as something that, like you said, Hector, provides great opportunity for both us as the accountants and our customers to receive the highest amount of value we can provide them as possible. So what do you think drives that fear in our particular industry?
One word: efficiency. Efficiency. We are cursed with the need to be efficient. It is the biggest problem. And we think efficiency means getting the client to pay the least amount for the most functional thing that just gets them by. Right? That's what we call compliance, right? That's compliance, right? Pay the least amount to get you enough to be compliant. And that's efficiency at its finest. And we come from a school of thought that efficiency is everything. And the only thing that will break that paradigm is when you understand what effectiveness means. And when you strive to be effective, even at the risk of becoming inefficient. So again, when you strive to be effective, even at the risk of becoming inefficient. And accountants are so scared of being inefficient. And because of that, they pull themselves down. I want to share this with you guys, okay? In my research of efficiency versus effectiveness talk that I did in one of the conferences, I was looking for visual illustrations of the point. So if you were hired at Disney this guy has a brush and has a, what do you call that scooper thing? Whatever, the scooper thing.
Yeah.
His job is to clean stuff, right?
Right.
This is a custodial, right? How long does it take for him to sit there and draw a Mickey Mouse on the floor? It's completely pointless. It's completely inefficient, right? His job is to clean the park, not to do something fun in the floor, which obviously draws attention. And this is where it's just so clear. See, Disney's goal is to deliver happiness, is for people to walk out with a great experience, smiling. They want every detail to feel like a magical experience. If they were efficient, okay, there will only be 2 dwarfs, not 7 dwarfs, right? Because it takes a lot more time to draw 7 dwarfs, right? But like Snow White and 2 dwarfs doesn't really make a lot of sense. So Disney is a perfect example where they go all out. I mean, Disney just goes all out, and they fight the war of efficiency, all towards being effective. Now, I would argue that Disney's food is the opposite of that, but Yeah, I would say I go to, I go to Disney a lot, and I really hate their food. But it's just a good example of, the purpose of the employees, who are not called employees, are called cast members, because everything they do is put up a show for their customers. It's to be effective at delivering happiness, delivering smiles, creating memories. So as accountants, we are, the opposite of that. We have an employee who's supposed to clean, and we're going to make sure they're cleaning 9 to 5,
Right.
not making sure that they're doing whatever it needs to be done to make the client smile and happy. And it's okay if the client smile and happy, and you build loyalty, and it brings you referrals, and you can raise the price, and they don't complain about prices. Who cares about someone being inefficient if they're being effective? So there's only a few firms, a few companies, even outside of the accounting world, that kind of evolve their thinking that way. And it's really hard at the beginning, because it's hard to think of us spending non-productive time, right? Think about it, Michael and Jacob. You guys do advisory work for your customers, right? Is advisory work about stopping for a second and thinking and recalling back a book you read 6 years ago, and recalling back and reflecting upon an experience from a similar client, or telling the client, let me think about it for a couple of days and come back and give you an answer to the problem you're asking? Or is it about hearing the problem and going straight to the computer and typing up, and make sure you're maximizing the time from the moment the client asks you for help to the moment you give them an answer? Your client doesn't care about how quickly you give them the answer if the answer is wrong. They only care, hey, come back to me when the answer is right. So how the heck do I build thinking time, right? So we're so afraid of idle time. Because that's inefficient, that we get so caught up in it. And that's really, I think that's at the heart of it. It's just being so afraid of being inefficient. And also inefficiency, we put the wrong label on stuff and call it inefficient, right? So somebody leaving early, oh, that's inefficient. Well, what if a person's leaving early because they feel super sick, and it's better to have them rest than to just do crappy work for the last 2 hours of the day and have to redo it the next day, So there's a little things that we just don't think about. And I've been a corporate of it. I've been trying to evolve to that too. People at my office, they know that they've seen that change over time, but it just takes some time to see things that way.